The story begins with a beagle who is part of the police force. One day, while the mayor is giving a speech in front of the police and the press, the beagle starts barking because he senses that something is wrong. He believes there is a bomb inside the building, so he alerts everyone, and the bomb squad is immediately called in to inspect the area. However, when they open the box, they discover there is no bomb, only a piece of meat. Realizing his mistake, the dog walks away sadly while the other animals mock him for being wrong. Later, after finishing his shift and taking off his uniform, the beagle is left alone on the street. Without realizing it, he gets lost, and shortly afterward he is captured by a dog catcher, who takes him to a dog prison. There, a very strange dog says that a veterinarian will arrive soon and that they all must escape as quickly as possible. At that moment, Dr. Bar Sinister tries to enter a research laboratory, but the security guard tells him that the place is closed. The scientist shows a special card, and another man confirms that he is allowed to enter. In this way, Bar Sinister manages to get inside and rides the elevator up. When he arrives, he enters a secret kennel where several animals are locked up, including a dog with fur similar to that of a jaguar. In this place, Bar Sinister carries out illegal experiments at night. He then orders his assistant, Cad, to capture a new dog for the next experiment. The chosen one is the beagle. The doctor prepares a huge syringe filled with a substance and approaches the animal, but the dog sneezes in his face. Frightened, the dog jumps onto the control panels, breaks the buttons, and runs away while escaping from Cad. The dog falls to the floor and is surrounded, but he manages to leap onto a shelf. As he does, he knocks over jars, tubes, and chemical liquids. Everything mixes together and causes a massive explosion. At that moment, a strange energy runs through the dog's body. Immediately, the animal runs at an incredible speed and crashes through the door, leaving a huge hole behind. At the same time, a panel from the lab falls and hits Dr. Bar Sinister. Later, the dog wanders the streets looking for food in the trash, but other dogs threaten him. Suddenly, they all begin chasing him. Just then, a car appears and hits the beagle. The driver is Dan, the laboratory's security guard. Dan quickly gets out, checks on the dog, and confirms that he is fine. Since the dog has no collar, Dan decides to take him home. What he does not notice is that the impact dented his car, even though the dog has no injuries. Jack, Dan's teenage son, hates school and often forges medical notes to pretend he is sick. Dan calls him out to the yard to show him the dog he found on the street. They decide to name him Shoeshine. Jack gets upset because he believes his father should not bring any more pets home. According to him, they already have enough animals, and he also thinks the dog will only make a mess. Later, while sleeping, the beagle remembers what the scientist said, that he had mixed special DNA to give him the speed of a cheetah, the ability to fly like an eagle, and the strength of an elephant. At the same time, Jack is called to the principal's office. There, they discover that his medical notes are fake, since he claimed to have monkeypox, an excuse no one believed. Back at home, Shoeshine finds a can of food in the cupboard. When he tries to open it with his mouth, he uses so much strength that the can explodes and the food ends up splattered all over the walls. Shortly afterward, the mailman arrives. The dog starts barking at him, and the man provokes him, making the barking grow louder and louder. The barks are so powerful that the window glass shatters, along with the man's glasses. Finally, Shoeshine smells a tennis ball, crawls under the couch, and pushes with such force that the furniture goes flying, breaking several things in the living room. Later, Jack returns home and finds the house completely destroyed. Jack immediately becomes worried, thinking about how his father will react when he sees the mess. He asks about the food scraps scattered near the sink, and the dog replies that it was an accident. At that moment, Jack hears a voice. Confused, he asks again and is shocked to realize that the dog is actually talking to him, and that he can understand him. Terrified, Jack runs through the house, and Shoeshine chases after him, believing that the problem is the boy, since he can now talk to animals. In the town square, Jack runs into a girl named Molly. She notices that Jack was talking to himself. Molly also has a little dog named Polly, who runs straight toward her owner. Shoeshine is completely amazed by how pretty Polly is. The two dogs play for a while, but Shoeshine says he has no chance with her because he thinks Polly is looking for a cooler partner. So they decide to stay just friends. Shortly afterward, Molly leaves. Then Jack throws a disc for his dog to catch and realizes that Shoeshine runs at an incredible speed and even floats in the air. Jack is totally impressed. He then throws a small stick, and in just a few seconds the dog digs a huge hole in the grass to bury it. After that, Jack asks if his nose is okay, and the dog tells him that he gets nervous when he smells too much. Suddenly, he sneezes so hard that he is sent flying behind some bushes. After that, Shoeshine starts showing off his super hearing, explaining that he can hear everything people are saying in the park. Suddenly, he hears Polly calling for help and believes that two men are trying to steal her backpack. Without thinking, he runs off to save her. Along the way, Shoeshine begins to float between cars, skillfully dodging them. However, he ends up crashing into a truck and is launched toward the sidewalk. On the way, he runs over several newspapers, rips a man's wig off, and leaves him unable to see. He then accidentally runs into an office and unintentionally steals a woman's sandwich. Even so, he manages to reach the scene of the robbery. There, he crashes into a trash can, and the lid goes flying straight into one of the thieves' faces. The dog is then launched onto a mattress, which throws him onto a fire escape. The fire escape falls on top of the second thief. The man tries to free himself but ends up hitting his partner with the ladder. The stolen camera goes flying through the air, and Shoeshine catches it midair to return it to Molly, while the thieves are left lying on the ground. In the middle of all the chaos, the dog presses the camera button and takes a picture of himself. Molly uses that photo to show it to the police. She describes a dog, but the officers end up drawing a human face with dog-like features, leaving everyone quite confused. Shoeshine makes it clear that he does not want to be a superhero and asks Jack not to tell his father anything about what happened. So the two of them decide to clean the house before Dan returns. At the same time, the mad scientist's assistant knocks on the door of the house. He tells Jack that he is looking for his beagle and shows him a photo. When the man leaves, the dog admits that he does not recognize him, because to him all humans look the same. Suddenly, Dan arrives home, and there is still a lot of mess left. Jack tries to distract him while Shoeshine attempts to put everything back in order. In the yard, Dan notices that a window is broken and decides to go inside. When he does, he discovers that all the dirt and mess have been hidden under the carpet. Faced with this situation, Dan decides to return the dog to the pound, but Jack begs him not to. Meanwhile, in the city's sewers, the mad scientist walks with a large scar on his forehead. He wants to build his new laboratory there, but he needs someone to fund his experiments, since everything is very expensive. Later on, the dog walks past a hot dog stand and comments that the food is made from animals like him. This causes several people to spit out what they were eating. After that, Jack takes Shoeshine to school. There, they run into a cat that starts making fun of the dog. Even though Jack tells him to calm down, Shoeshine ends up chasing the cat and trapping it at the top of a tree. Because of this, Jack decides to train his dog and teaches him basic commands like sit, lie down, and roll over. Shortly afterward, Shoeshine receives an ID collar so he can return home if he ever gets lost, which makes him very happy. At the city laboratory, Bar Sinister manages to break in through the sewers. At that exact moment, Dan notices some strange activity and decides to investigate. He enters a dark room filled with equipment but finds no one there. Bar Sinister not only wants to recover his experiment, but now he is planning something even bigger, creating an army of super dogs like Shoeshine. Later, the news on television reports that a major robbery has taken place in the city. Hearing this, the dog decides to go out and stop the criminals. However, when he tries to leave through the door, he uses so much strength that he leaves a huge hole behind. As he starts flying, he accidentally ends up putting on a fish costume. Meanwhile, the bandits take several innocent people hostage inside a jewelry store and manage to open one of the safes filled with jewels. One of the thieves contacts Bar Sinister and tells him that the team has reached the final target. Outside, the police see something flying through the sky. Suddenly, Shoeshine crashes into a sign and is launched straight toward the jewelry store. One of the thieves offers to fight the dog, but Shoeshine knocks him out immediately and sends him flying. Bar Sinister, who is watching everything through the cameras, realizes that this is the dog from his experiment. He immediately orders his men to capture him. One of them approaches the dog, but Shoeshine takes him down with a single blow. The next day, the news that a dog stopped the robbery appears on every news channel in the city. No one can believe it. Shoeshine tells Jack that he feels good helping people, and then the boy comes up with an idea, turning him into a real superhero. The dog tries on several costumes, such as one of Sherlock Holmes, another of a bee, and even one of Dracula. In the end, they decide to use a sweatshirt to create a suit similar to Underdog, a cartoon about a superhero dog. They start cutting fabric and set up an alert code. Shoeshine must bark 3 times whenever something is wrong. With his costume on, Shoeshine goes out to patrol the city as Underdog. On one of his first missions, he finds a man climbing a building and slams him into a police car. Shortly after, the news shows footage of the dog catching thieves and stopping a car from hitting some children. Meanwhile, Molly begins to investigate who the mysterious superhero saving everyone really is. At the same time, Bar Sinister continues experimenting with other dogs, but all of his attempts fail. Then he comes up with a new idea, stealing a DNA sample from the original dog. To do this, Cad disguises himself as a woman and pretends to be about to fall from the top of a building, intending to trick and capture Underdog. When the hero arrives at the scene, he tries to help but ends up crashing into the building, causing the assistant to lose his balance and start falling. Just as Cad is about to hit the ground, Underdog manages to catch him in midair. While greeting him, the man slips a leash around the dog's neck. However, the dog starts running at full speed and drags the assistant through the city. During the chase, Cad crashes into a sign, causing the leash to come loose. Although he manages to escape, he takes the dog's collar with him. This leaves Shoeshine without his ID and Jack deeply upset. To avoid being recognized, they put a dog cone on Shoeshine as part of his costume. While he waits, some stray dogs approach and make fun of him. However, his friend Polly defends him and tells him that he should be brave, just like Underdog. Later, Polly starts calling for help. Underdog comes running and plows through everything in his path. Polly then explains that she called for help because she had run out of food. Underdog takes his friend's paw, and the two of them fly across the city. Along the way, they steal a little girl's lunchbox, but inside there is only a single meatball, which ends up falling from the top of a building. Back at home, Dan gives Jack a map showing where the city's sewer lines run and tells him that even Bar Sinister knows that layout very well. Then, his father comes face to face with the mad scientist Bar Sinister and his assistant, who are waiting for him in the living room. After the outing, Polly meets up with Shoeshine and tells him that she went on a date with Underdog and found him strong and very charming. Later, at Dr. Bar Sinister's laboratory, Dan is taken hostage. To force him to cooperate, Bar Sinister makes him call the dog for help, while 3 German shepherds begin to growl threateningly. Hearing the call, Shoeshine becomes furious. He tells Jack that he has decided to accept the mission because his father is in danger. Without hesitation, the dog grabs the boy by his shirt and flies with him to the laboratory. When they arrive, Underdog speaks, completely shocking Dan, who had no idea the dog had superpowers. Shoeshine then proposes a deal. He will give up his DNA in exchange for Jack's and Dan's freedom. Bar Sinister agrees and makes the dog swallow a pill. Immediately, lightning courses through his body, and Shoeshine loses all his powers. The scientist takes the superhero's DNA and turns it into capsules, which he then gives to 3 of his dogs. Instantly, the animals become super intelligent and obey all of his orders. The villains then head toward the city's capital. Meanwhile, father and son argue, but Dan asks Jack to come closer to help free his hands so they can escape. Bar Sinister finds the mayor inside the building, but the press and the police are already outside, and the news is broadcasting everything live. At the same time, Molly and her little dog follow the assistant, who climbs to the top of the building. Outside, Shoeshine feels miserable because he no longer has powers and believes he cannot do anything. Jack comforts him and tells him that he loves him anyway. At that moment, the dog begins to smell something strange and realizes that there is a bomb. He decides to trust his instincts and runs toward the building to find it. Inside, the scientist demands $1 billion from the city's treasury from the mayor, as well as complete freedom to rebuild his laboratory. Shoeshine enters through the pipes and ends up falling onto a huge inflatable balloon that starts rolling down the stairs, knocking the villains over along the way, though it also hits the mayor. Then the dog crashes into Bar Sinister, causing several capsules to fall out of his pocket. After the impact, Shoeshine is knocked unconscious, and the dogs are about to attack him. However, a bolt of energy shoots through his body, and he regains his powers after ingesting one of the fallen capsules. With his powers restored, he punches one of the German shepherds and easily dodges the others, running off because he still has to stop the bomb. At the very top of the tower, Molly is discovered by Cad, who ties her and her dog to the building's railing. Seeing that his henchmen cannot capture Shoeshine, Bar Sinister decides to ingest one of his own capsules to gain superpowers. Meanwhile, Shoeshine crashes into a lamp and falls to the ground, colliding directly with Bar Sinister. The scientist grabs a sword and attacks the dog, but Shoeshine dodges it and throws a ball that strikes the sword and breaks it easily. The ball also hits Cad, knocking him to the ground. Then Bar Sinister grabs a metal shield and throws it at the dog. Shoeshine catches it, spins with great force, and crashes into a statue. As he gets back up, he realizes that he is once again surrounded by the dogs. Underdog speaks to them and convinces them to rebel against Bar Sinister. The dogs attack the doctor and manage to stop him. Desperate, Bar Sinister activates the bomb's timer, which is set to explode in less than 2 minutes. Shoeshine runs out of the building and asks Jack to hand him his superhero suit. At the same time, the mayor manages to escape from the place. Dan asks for permission to take action and is promoted on the spot. He enters the building, injects the scientist with a tranquilizer, and captures him, becoming a respected officer. With less than a minute left before the explosion, Underdog frees Molly and her little dog. He then grabs the bomb and carries it to a nearby park. As many people begin to gather, the dog digs a huge hole and places the explosive at the bottom of the tunnel, keeping it away from everyone. However, the bomb explodes while Shoeshine is still inside the tunnels. The dog reacts immediately and flies at full speed, trying to avoid the tunnel walls. He manages to escape just as the explosion reaches the surface, but he is still hit by the blast and is launched straight into space. Fortunately, his body re-enters Earth's orbit and crashes down like a meteor near the capital, drawing everyone's attention. Jack runs to the site, finds him lying on the ground, and believing he has lost his best friend, breaks down in tears. Suddenly, Shoeshine opens his eyes. Seeing that he is alive, everyone celebrates with excitement. Meanwhile, Dan takes Bar Sinister to his prison cell, right next to his assistant cell. This enrages the scientist, who cannot believe his bad luck. Later, Underdog says goodbye to Polly, as he must continue on new missions to protect the city. Along the way, Shoeshine once again runs into the stray dogs who used to bully him. As usual, they try to threaten him, but this time the super dog is not intimidated. Underdog releases a supersonic blast at the gang's leader, knocking off part of his fur and making it clear who is in charge now.